young children, calling out the messages of the heart and soul, telling us what we used to know before the lies were told. Listen to the voices of the young children. Listen to the voices of the young children. Listen to the voices of the old women. Listen to the voices of the First Nations. Listen to the voices of the living.
Good morning. Welcome to the First Unitarian Church of Hamilton. We welcome you here in the sanctuary and those who have opted to join us online. I would ask that you take this time to ensure your devices are muted, please. My name is Audrey Johnman. My pronouns are she, her, and I am this morning's service leader. I would like to thank today's service team, which includes Interim Minister Reverend Jamie Boyce, music ministers DJ Moons, Cindy Carey, and the UU Choir, accompanied by Jeffrey Pollock, religious educator Tim Versteeg, tech team Josh McIntyre, Marianne Forbes, Chase Tapley, and John Elliott, ushers Angela and Pete Morgan, and worship assistants Ian and Sue Johnstone. Our goal in this congregation is to extend our hearts in welcome to whomever you may be. We are connected through our desire to live out our ideals of peace, love, and justice for all. We are here to love one another and encourage each other in our spiritual growth. Our congregational mission includes our commitment to nurture one another, serve the community, and inspire action to heal the world. Our chalice represents the light of hope at the center of our faith tradition. The spark of this flame draws us into our time of worship and community. Please join me in our chalice lighting words. May this flame be our light of friendship and love. Today's service is streaming live from our church in Hamilton on the sacred lands of many peoples. We live upon the traditional territories of the Erie, Neutral, Huron-Wendat, Haudenosaunee, and Mississaugas. This land is covered by the Dish with One Spoon Wampum Belt Covenant, which was an agreement between the Haudenosaunee and Anishinaabe to share and care for the resources around the Great Lakes. As settlers, we continue to benefit from this land and its resources. As settlers, we must ask ourselves how or if we have shared and cared for the earth and its gifts. Facing the truth is hard. Truth must come before reconciliation.
Good morning. I'm so excited to be here. I actually had to sing it, which I don't do often. So welcome to our service today. Welcome to those joining us here in person and those joining us online. We are so happy you are with us today. My name is Reverend Jamie Boyce. My pronouns are she, her, and I have the great privilege of serving this congregation as its interim minister. This morning, we will continue to lean into the theme of renewal and welcome the spirit of change and transformation into our lives, our communities, and our world, even as it feels like it might sweep us away. Today, we'll pause and rest our hearts in the comfort of community and renew our faith among us. And in that spirit, I invite you to offer and welcome your neighbors with these words, a gentle welcome. I'm glad you're here. I'm glad
You're here. Good morning. And indeed, we are glad you are here with us today. Let us open our hearts and minds as we gather to worship on this glorious, glorious day. Please rise as you are called to sing our first hymn, Gathered Here, 389, in our gray hymnal, and the words will appear behind me and on the screen if you're joining us online. And the choir will lead us in this song too, right?
Good morning. My name is Tim Versteeg. My pronouns are he, him, and it is my great pleasure to be the religious educator at this church. This morning, we will be reading for our Story for All Ages, I Am Love, which is a book written by Suzanne Verde with art by Peter H. Reynolds. When I see someone going through a storm of hurt and unfairness, of anger and sadness, when the sun disappears and the skies grow dark, and I see there is fear, I ask myself, what can I do to help let the light back in? I put my hands in my heart and listen, and that is where I find the answer. I have compassion. I act with tenderness. I am love. I can listen and not say a word. I can be there. Love is being present. I can hug and hold and say, everything will be all right. Love is comfort. I can speak softly and choose my words and actions carefully. Love is gentle. I can give thanks for all I have and am able to share. Love is gratitude. I can keep my mind and body safe and healthy. Love is taking care of me. I can express what is important to me. Love is creative. I can know that no one is perfect. Love is understanding. I can do my best to make things better when something is wrong. Love is effort. I can celebrate those I've loved before. Love is remembering. I can find goodness in a kind word, a helping hand, or a shared smile. Love is tiny gestures. I can breathe in the air that the whole world shares, and no creatures are made from the very same stardust. Love is connection. When the clouds roll in for others and for me, I know now there is something I can do. I can let my heart lead the way. I am love. You are love. We are love. And with love, we will weather the storm and light up the sky together. And that is the end of our story for today. This month in CYRE, as we talk about renewal in the big church, we've been talking about imagining a future that would be guided by UU principles in the wide world. So 2 weeks ago, we talked about our own communities, Brantford and Dundas and Hamilton, and we drew pictures of what we hope those would look like. And last week, we talked about imagining a Canada where those values were prevalent and used and lived by. And this week, we are going to collaboratively create a mural imagining the world. And this is the time when the children will be joined by Kate Hicks and I, and we will line up at the door there, and I believe we will be sung out by the choir, I'm not sure. And Jamie, if you would please come and get the children's chalice for us, that would be great.
Our time of meditation today acknowledges Lunar New Year. Celebrations are taking place around the world, and we join those celebrations inspired by Plum Village, the monastic community of Thich Nhat Hanh. Each year, Plum Village marks the Lunar New Year by issuing to the world a couplet, a meditative couplet, a gatha. And this meditative couplet is intended to hold us and invite us to return to a pause, a practice that centers and restores and renews us. This year, Plum Village continues that tradition of Thich Nhat Hanh and has issued the following couplet. Peace in every step and freedom in every smile. These couplets can be joined with our breath. So when we breathe in, we can say, peace in every step. And when we breathe out, we can say, freedom in every smile. And as we practice this, we might return to a place that restores us to our bodies, restores us to our hearts, renews us in a place that is unhurried and unrushed. Plum Village has shared this with the world about this tradition and these reflections. Plum Village shares, we are continuing Thai Thich Nhat Hanh's tradition with every step that we make during the new year. Peace is every step, and there is peace in our hearts as we walk mindfully on beautiful Mother Earth. Thai has inspired us with his insight, peace in oneself and peace in the world. So why not have peace as we make an offering to Thai, to our ancestors, and to all beings? Freedom is available to us in the present moment when we live mindfully with awareness and gratitude that all the wonders of life are still available to us. We remember Thai's practice that he shared with us as a way to meet all situations and difficulties we encounter. I smile to life in me and around me. A smile on our lips is freedom. We are free from the past and the future and fully alive in the present moment. Why not experience smiling as the precious freedom that we offer to ourselves and others this year? May we all continue practicing together, creating peace and freedom in every step, with every smile renewed in faith and renewed in beloved community. As we rise to light candles, as is our tradition, and acknowledge the joy, worry, pain, and prayers of gratitude resting in our hearts and among us in the presence of friends, you are invited to receive the New Year couplet to place in your home as a reminder that peace and freedom are available to us and available to share with the world. For those joining us online, we will send the link where you can access these couplets and print them out at home as a gift from Plum Village to the world and a gift from our community to you. May there be peace in our hearts and peace in the world. Now is the time in our service when we acknowledge the joys and sorrows of our community. And today I share a number of sorrows. So I invite us to hold the space as best we can. Invite our care and concern into this space, holding it with those joining us online, knowing that we are never alone. As we recognize Lunar New Year this morning, I hold the tragedy that happened in Los Angeles last night close. 10 people died from gunfire in what appears to be a hate crime. May we remain vigilant against hate in our communities and in our world. I also acknowledge this morning that 6 people were killed last weekend in Toronto due to gun violence as well. We must remain vigilant against this threat in our communities and in our world. I share from Paul Hawkins this morning. Paul, we hold you in our care, and I love noticing that you are surrounded by the choir this morning. Paul shares that his Uncle Ralph passed away earlier this month, that his dear friend Suzanne's father died shortly after Roy, and now her mother has taken a turn for the worse, and that your mother remains in a nursing home because of a lack of home care at this time. That indeed is a lot of sorrow to hold. We hold that with you today, Paul. From Janice this morning shares a sorrow. Janice shares that her 92-year-old aunt in England is in the hospital with a chest infection. Aunt Dorothy is Janice's last relative of the present generation, and we are wishing her a speedy recovery. Or, this is brave, Janice, a peaceful transition, whatever the universe asks. Janice, we hold you and your aunt in our care this morning, and we wish with you for what is best. Finally, today we recognize a loss in our wider faith community, and we honor the life of Rabbi Bernard Baskin, a longtime friend of First Unitarian Church of Hamilton. Passed away on Wednesday, January 18, at the age of 102. He served as the spiritual leader of Temple Anshe Shalom on Westdale from 1949 to 1989, and then as the Rabbi Emeritus from 1989 to 2017. Rabbi Baskin was our church's most prolific guest speaker, delivering over 40 sermons or speeches at First Hamilton over 6 decades. His first appearance before our congregation was on March 26, 1950, as part of a panel discussion on liberal religion. He participated in the ordination and installation of at least 5 of our ministers. He was present at many special occasions at our church, including the dedication of this building in 2000 and the service celebrating this congregation's 125th birthday in 2014. After he lit the chalice at our church's 125th anniversary celebration, he shared these words: "May the light we have just kindled be a symbol. May it be a presage on the next 125 years on kindness, understanding, justice, and peace, and the existence of the Unitarian Church of tomorrow." Rabbi Baskin felt at home here because his Reform Judaism had something in common with our progressive faith. Asked once to characterize liberalism in religion, he said, "There is always room for an open-minded view towards events and how to act in history and responsibility and how to achieve fulfillment of self. All of these things are liberal." Rabbi Baskin's memorial is taking place today at Temple Anshe Shalom starting at 11 a.m. and can be observed in person or online. I am hoping that recordings will be available. We are grateful for the many times he shared his wisdom and insights with our congregation. He will be deeply missed. But while we mourn his loss, we also celebrate his legacy and the impact his exemplary leadership had on the Hamilton community and beyond. May his memory be a blessing. We know that there are joys and sorrows flowing among us and with us that are too new, too tender yet to share. Let this day be a reminder that all of those are held in the presence of friends, the presence of love, in the presence of this beloved community.
Our offering is a reminder of the spirit of generosity that is at the heart of our religious community. When we share our financial resources, we ensure the continued existence of our church. We will now receive our offering while we listen to our music ministers. Your gifts and support of our ministries to one another and to the community are appreciated. Thank you. Today's reading is called Acknowledgement of Limitations by Burton D. Carley, who was a retired UU minister, having served the First Unitarian Church of Memphis for over 20 years. I wonder if the river ever despairs of its downward destiny and harbors a secret desire to flow uphill. I wonder if winter yearns to be summer, or if a flower wishes it could bloom out of season. I wonder if silence would like to shout, or if the sky wants to fall down and become the earth. I wonder if the bird longs to become a rabbit, or if the fish ever dreams of walking on the land. I wonder if the mountains envy the valleys, or if snow secretly covets the warmth of June. I wonder if the moon complains that it is not the sun, or the stars envy the earth. I wonder if rain prefers a cloudless sky, or if grass tires of green and hopes for blue. I wonder if spring really likes growing, or if fall rages against its colorful dying. I wonder if the world ever sighs after more than it is, like you and I, like you and I. O Spirit of life, we struggle against our limitations. Teach us to accept them. Amen.
I love that you found humor in that poem. Really, it brought something new to me hearing you giggle. And because I struggle with my limitations too, one of those limitations sometimes is remembering things. I want to acknowledge that part of our tech team today, Brian Carey, is here in our tech team today. So Brian, thanks for being here with us this morning. I also want to acknowledge that I gave that wonderful history of Rabbi Baskin's relationship to this congregation, and that was assembled. We have a congregational historian, Bill Johnston. You may have read his articles, but Bill and Lila put that together overnight, so I could share all of that beautiful history with you this morning and give weight and gravitas to that relationship. So I'm grateful for them because that's a long history. That's an LTR. That's a long-term relationship. And preceded me, of course, by decades. Our reading today, as you heard, it's full of graphic images of the natural world that are in tension with each other and held by a curious gaze interested in the gaps and space between things. I wonder if the moon complains that it is not the sun, or if the stars envy the earth. The distance between the moon and sun, the stars and earth, invites us to wonder about the relationship between and longing and acceptance of the material world. What possibilities for happiness exist in such a tension? Of course, at the end of the poem, we arrive at a collective sigh and reminded that longing and acceptance are a human struggle, and that freedom might be found in resting in the majesty of things just as they are. The mountain, the valley, the winter, the summer, the natural world teaches our frustrated human hearts how to be with the world as it is changing, how to be renewed by the movements of life instead of resisting, pushing them away, running away, and maybe invites us just to accept life just as it is. And doesn't it feel like life is moving with more velocity these days? like the world has been launched into 2023 at a speed that is mind-bending, disorienting, exhilarating, and maybe a tiny bit exhausting already. We're only in week 3. A word I've heard more frequently to describe recent months and the current state of affairs is velocity. Perhaps you've heard me use this too. And you've found yourself using similar words and phrases to express a familiar and similar feeling, perhaps urgent, unstoppable, unleashed, hurried, relentless. If the lockdown years were captured by the words pivot and pause, it does feel like 2023 is unfurling with a disorienting speed, like a roller coaster peaking over the first hill. There's a sense of free fall, and we're being propelled into a future, and I don't know about you, but I feel pretty vulnerable traveling at this speed with this intensity. Words that show up in ordinary conversation, as you've learned by now, are really interesting to me. And I notice that they often and typically point to some bigger struggle and preoccupation or concern lingering beneath the surface of our lives. So naturally, I looked up the definition of velocity, and as you might guess, I was instantly captivated by the more technical, scientific, and really the vastness of this word. I really did end up down one of those rabbit holes that sometimes it's difficult to return from, but it was good learning. And it helped me recognize my very real limitations, as I was reminded that velocity is the measurement of speed and movement, and that there are several velocity calculators out there. This is a thing. I mean, I know for many people in our community who are engineers, physicists, they already know this. I didn't know this. There are several ways to calculate velocity. If you feel curious too, a quick Google search will probably take you down the same rabbit hole I went into over the weekend, but it was a magnificent world of learning. It resonated with me as a religious leader as I noticed and observed that we can participate in an understanding of velocity. We need not simply be swept up in it. We can notice the distance we are traveling, the speed we are traveling at, if we have some reference points. It's great. Isn't that magnificent? With so much velocity in our lives, we might notice that we've moved further away and we're finding it hard to stay connected to our spiritual lives, to our faith, the habits and connections that nourish and renew our bodies, hearts, and minds. We might forget to rest or push rest to the background of our lives, forget to bathe in the forest, the fresh air, to pause in a meditative or prayerful moment, to delight in our friendships and our companionship, to take refuge in love. We forget that the whole of our lives can be a practice of our values and a place where our spirits come alive. Velocity can disorient us, and yet, if we pause and pay attention, we can notice where we're at. We can notice the speed we're traveling and the distance we have come. with such velocity, feeling the distance between our spiritual lives and our busy lives, our demanding lives, we can feel alienated from the still small voice within, estranged from the great love that holds us and keeps us. And it's important to make room for more mystery, stillness, divine presence, or the sacredness of our breath, in and out as a source of renewal and revitalization. To notice the distance, the speed, and get curious about the journey. This congregation has been in a time of acceleration through the process of interim ministry as met with the larger shifts in our world. Namely, the way that we've been shaped by the pandemic and the promise and the hope of our changing faith communities. Traveling with velocity can also bring feelings of disappointment too, and we might notice those as they arise. We might notice that in the rush and whirlwind of traveling such distances at great speed, that things get missed. We miss opportunities, we miss connections, we miss moments of gratitude and appreciation, or we miss opportunities to hold curiosity, grace, and patience for our companions on this journey of transformation. This past year, in this past year and a half, you have said goodbye to a beloved minister, welcomed a brand new minister, said yes to the explorations and experimentations of interim ministry. You've embraced the call of the 8th principle to uproot white supremacy and barriers to full inclusion in our communities and in our world. You've expanded your reach of social justice programs, emerged from 2 years of pandemic lockdown with greater capacity for multi-platform worship services and programming. You've been courageous and generous in growing our financial well-being. You settled your mortgage, welcomed new members and babies among us, and charged forward implementing a strategic action plan with success. Takes my breath away, and maybe yours too. And that, believe me, friends, is just the beginning. And as I hold that, all that promise, all those gifts of community, it is impossible not to notice that traveling with velocity means we say goodbye. You've also said goodbye to friends and loved ones as life's end has arrived and brought grief, sorrow, and heartbreak into your midst. It has all happened so fast. My wish for us in the months ahead is to nurture and cultivate being intentional with our lives together, centering covenant and curiosity among us as we keep faithful to our purpose and mission. These are the reference points of traveling with velocity. Our mission, to nurture each other, serve the community, and inspire action that heals the world, grounds us and roots us in where we are going. It's important that we continually renew our commitment to our mission, restore our energy and faith so we might succeed and savor our lives together. Savor. We can do this by returning to our covenant, the agreements and promises we make to each other as we live into beloved community. We can do this by offering and receiving care and support for times when we are vulnerable, and we will all be vulnerable along the way. And we can do this by nurturing each other into paths of engagement that feel good, that grow our joy. And we can share the joy. We can share the responsibility of beloved community. We can slow down together and speed up together and include everyone along the way. Our faith is absolutely being renewed and restored when we return to each other. Widening our attention even further, we notice that our living faith is also in a season of renewal. I have a beautiful slide here to help me with this part. This past week, the Unitarian Universalist Association issued the study report from the Article 2 Study Commission, which proposed exciting changes to Article 2 of the Unitarian Universalist bylaws, the section that details our principles and sources. The proposed changes invite us to go deeper, to harness the energy and inspiration alive inside the principles and sources, and draw out Unitarian Universalist theology, values, and commitments. Love is at the center of this work, surrounded by justice, interdependence, transformation, equity, pluralism, and generosity. The commission continues to get feedback from congregations and stakeholders throughout the Unitarian Universalist Association of Congregations. This week's church email will have more information about these exciting developments in our wider faith, links to the Commission's report, and opportunities to join the Canadian Unitarian Council in conversation. We are fortunate to be a part of a living tradition, a faith that changes and adapts as it learns, deepens, and grows into ever more expansive commitments to purpose, justice, and inclusion. We are in the midst of a renewal of our faith, a revival of our values, and a restoration of our communities. It is an exciting time to be a Unitarian Universalist. I don't think the world is going to slow down anytime soon. Something about this swiftness of the current moment feels like it's here to stay. But we have an opportunity to become ever more trusting of the spiritual practices and habits that center us, keep us, bring us joy, and connect us in community. We have an opportunity to slow down and welcome change as it arrives, and celebrate the world emerging before us, just as it is. And we can join together in beloved community and savor every moment, even as we are propelled into the future. May it be so, and blessed be. I invite you to rise as you are called to enjoy and sing with us, My Life Flows On, an Endless Song. 108, and the words will appear behind me or on the screen.
My life goes on
I love that tune, and it was especially beautiful to hear it sung by our choir today. How can we keep from singing? Go, beloveds, renewed in faith, renewed in spirit, renewed in hope. Let us be bold in our embrace of change, and may we remember that there is peace in every breath, freedom in every smile. You are wonderfully made for this moment, for this time in our world and this time in our faith. We are so glad you are here. We extinguish this chalice, but not the fire in our hearts until we meet again.
If we want hope to survive in this world today, then every day we've got to pray on, pray on. If we want hope to survive in this world today, then every day we've got to pray on.
We want hope to survive in this world today. Then every day we've got to pray on, pray on. If we want hope to survive in this world today, then every day we've got to pray on. If we want hope to survive in this world today, we've got to every
We have a few announcements this morning. Today, after the service, you are invited to stay in the sanctuary and welcome visitors and share about our church. The session will be led by Tove Erickson and the Visitor and Congregation Engagement Team. Please meet near the choir area. Last Sunday, Bruce did a fabulous job explaining our financial matters to all who attended the budget information session. Thank you to Bruce and the folks who helped put on the meeting. The vote on the budget will be held after church next Sunday, January 29th. I expect it will be a short meeting. Hope to see you there. Martin Dooley reports that unfortunately, due to a lack of enrollment, the OWL Committee will not be offering Our Whole Lives for grades SK to 2 in January and February. Members of our congregation, Stephen Atkinson, Chris Ewing-Weiss, and Connie Jane count all the money of our Sunday collections, pledge checks, and other income. They also prepare and make bank deposits. Twice a month, 2 volunteers must do this, recently on Thursday or Friday afternoons. They'd love to welcome and train 2 or 3 new volunteers. All it requires is some arithmetic, the enjoyment of routine procedures, and reliability. For further information, please contact Chris in the church office. Speaking of Chris, he sends a friendly reminder that all annual reports for the upcoming AGM on March 26th are due tomorrow. Please send your annual report to Chris or contact him if you need a brief extension. Thank you. Our first monthly food drive for the Eva Rothwell Center will take place next Sunday, January 29th, during the intergenerational service. Please see the Eva Rothwell page on the church website for a suggested list of items, or a list of suggested items, as it actually says here. If you have any questions, please speak with Doreen Knoll or Tim Versteeg. And we have our monthly all-ages games night here at the church on January 27th. That's this Friday from 7 to 9, and you have to know I'm really excited about that. For more information about the fantastic work of this church, please see our church website and your weekly church email, all church email. The font on this is a little small. Our service in the sanctuary is now finished. For those of you online, if you wish to participate in small group conversation, there is a Zoom link for coffee hour chat.